I'm live. I'm live. I was beginning to wonder. Are you still there, John? Someone's already given me a thumbs up when I wasn't even here. Is anyone there? Maybe they weren't patient enough to wait. Or maybe they can't see me. I don't know. We've had some IT issues, and I don't know whether you can see me and hear me, but I will just go ahead. Yeah. Someone said yes, so someone can see me, which is good. So, this is Buddhism for Beginners, and I'm glad I finally made it. My name's Aleta, and this is the first in a series of 5 classes. So, after all that IT stress, I think I need to have a brief meditation. I invite you to join me in meditation. I like to call this meditation that we do our arrival meditation. So, just giving our body and our mind the opportunity to calm a little. I'm just reading on the comment. People can see and hear me, I think. But Ben is suggesting that you may need to refresh your browser to see and hear me. So I will keep going. We will do a short meditation, just allowing ourselves to arrive in the present moment wherever we are right now. Just giving our body and our mind a chance to settle. So just having the spine as straight as we can comfortably manage. And eyes can be closed or just slightly open. And the head just directed as if you're looking at a spot on the floor about a metre in front of you. And just taking a couple of deep breaths all the way into the belly if you can. And then allowing the breath to flow into its natural rhythm. And just feeling the points of contact of our body with the floor or the chair holding it. Feeling the stability, the solidity, the security of that surface holding you. And just noticing how the body is in this moment without judgment, just noticing how it is. Noticing any areas where you may be holding on to tension, or there may be some discomfort or pain in your body. If there is, imagine that you can breathe into those areas of tightness or discomfort. As you breathe into that area, imagine the breath suffusing the area with your loving concern for yourself. And as you imagine breathing out from that area, imagine letting go of the tightness or the discomfort or the pain. Just letting go with each out breath. And now just gently placing our attention on the breath, wherever we notice it the most in this moment. It might be at the nostrils or on the upper lip. It might be the rise and fall of the chest or the rise and fall of the belly. Or it might be the complete wave-like flow of the breath. Wherever you notice the breath the most in this moment, just gently placing our attention there and just observing each in and each out breath. Not trying to control the breath in any way, just allowing it to be as it is. And when the mind wanders, don't worry about it. That's just what minds do. Just bringing the attention back to the breath with kindness and gentleness again and again. Just this moment, just this breath. And it may help you to relax a bit more, to lighten up a bit more. If you have just a very slight smile at your mouth as well. Things don't have to be so serious. You can just enjoy the luxury of being able to meditate, being able to relax. And the mind is distracted by sounds or sensations or thoughts. We just gently bring the attention back to the breath, to the present moment. Now, just for a moment, thinking of our motivation for being here tonight, to listen to a bit about Buddhism, to hear about the Buddha's teachings, just developing a positive motivation for being here. And then we can expand that out so that anything that we may hear tonight, which may help us to be a more compassionate, happy, calm, wise person, that could help all those around us, all those who come in contact with us as well, helping them all to be happier, more compassionate, calm, wise people. And just noticing the state of the body in this moment, no judgment, just noticing how it is, and noticing the state of the mind in this moment. There's no right or wrong, it's just your experience. Becoming aware of the points of contact of our body with that safe, secure surface holding it. Noticing the touch of our clothes on our skin and the air on our skin. Noticing the noises inside the room, the noises outside the room. And when you're ready, feeling joyful and relaxed, gently open your eyes and have a stretch. So apparently my light and camera look perfect now. Took a while to get here, but we got here, which is wonderful. If people would like to just introduce themselves, if you'd just like to put your name in the comment bar, would help me to know that I'm talking to people rather than just a machine. And I will briefly introduce myself, just a bit of background about me and the Vajrayana Institute, who is streaming all of their classes and meditations at the moment, which is just such a fantastic opportunity for us to get these teachings and meditations from the comfort of our own home, where we are isolating at the moment. And we could look at it that it's actually a little bit of a retreat for us, this opportunity of being in our homes more with less distractions out there. So, my interest in Buddhism started about 21 years ago. I read a book called The Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, which had a big impact on me. I found that the Buddha's scientific and psychological methods and tools and views made a lot of sense to me. It was just all logical, scientific, and it really helped me to cope with problems that I faced in life at that time. And then, even though it had such a big impact on me, I didn't have the karmic conditions to be able to look further into Buddhism, to devote more time into meditation and studying Buddhism until about 9 years later. I had small kids at home, 3 young children, and I was working, and the karmic conditions just weren't there. But the seed had been planted, I think. And then eventually I met a Buddhist nun in the Sutherland Shire, Venerable Yangchen. I started meditating with her. I actually sent my children to meditate with her, to learn to meditate with her first, because I thought that they were the source of my problems at the time. Um, I think meditation helped my kids. I think it was a great opportunity for them to be exposed to meditation so young in life. But eventually I realised that I really needed to work on my mind rather than fixing my kids. So I started meditating regularly with Venerable Yangchen and going to her classes. And then eventually she brought me out to the Vajrayana Institute, or VI for short, as we call it. And I've been attending classes at the VI for 10 years, around about 10 years. Virtually at least weekly, I've been going out to the VI. I did Discovering Buddhism course, which is a 2-year course and was really, really beneficial for me. Highly recommend Discovering Buddhism. And I did Lamrim courses and other workshops and retreats. And I've been very fortunate that I've been able to attend teachings of His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Lama Sopa Rinpoche, lots of amazing teachers from around the world who have been to VI or have been to Australia teaching. So I am not a Buddha. I am very much a work in progress, but I can really see that the Buddhist tools and methods have helped me a lot to be a happier person, to have a more meaningful life. And I told my son not to text me for a lift because I'm YouTubing at the moment. So he texts me, and I did have it on airplane mode, but then with all the IT issues, I didn't put it back on. Sorry. Okay, so the Vajrayana Institute. Did I mention that I also officially became or formally became a Buddhist? That was around about 10 years ago with Geshe Sampton, who is the main resident teacher at VI. Geshe Sampton is a monastic, a monk, and the Geshe is a title which means that, or is translated as one who knows virtue, one who knows what should be practiced and what should be abandoned. So Geshe Sampton is a very wise and compassionate and skillful teacher. I think he's got some classes on YouTube streamed at the moment as well, which is fantastic. Geshe Sampton became a monk at 9 years old, and he did his Geshe degree, which is a 23-year university course. So it's roughly equivalent to a PhD in Buddhist philosophy. He did that at Sera Monastery in India. And I have also facilitated a meditation group in the Sutherland Shire for 8 years, which has been very beneficial for me, being able to regularly meet with like-minded, positive people. That's a very helpful thing for your practice to be in contact with other like-minded people, which is what I love about VI as well. So the VI is a centre for the study and development of the mind in accordance with the wisdom of Tibetan Buddhism and the philosophy of the Dalai Lama. And the VI is a part of the FPMT group. FPMT stands for the Federation of the Preservation of the Mahayana Tradition, which is a bit of a mouthful, so we call it FPMT for short. The FPMT has over 160 centres, I believe, worldwide. And it was established in the 1970s by Lama Yeshe, and the current spiritual director, Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Lama Yeshe was born in Tibet and ordained at 6 years old, and he fled Tibet in 1959, as did the Dalai Lama when the Chinese invaded. And with Lama Zopa Rinpoche, he started teaching Western hippies who had gone over to India searching for a more spiritual life, searching for answers to their big meaning of life questions. Lama Yeshe had a passion for teaching Westerners, even though that was frowned on by some other Tibetan teachers. Lama Yeshe was a very unconventional teacher, and he and Lama Zopa Rinpoche eventually managed to spread Buddhist teachings out to the West, and today over 160 centres. So really, really beneficial, I think, to the whole world. Lama Yeshe died in 1984, and his recognised reincarnation, Lama Ursel, he was born in 1985, so what's that make him, 35 years old now? He is starting to teach more, and he is also quite an unconventional teacher like Lama Yeshe was. Ursel was a monastic, a monk, up until the age of about 17, and then he decided that he wanted to go back to the West and try to share the benefits of Buddhism with Westerners who were non-Buddhist, so making it more accessible to people who are not necessarily Buddhist. And he is a great teacher as well. And Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who was Lama Yeshe's chief disciple and is our current spiritual director, still travels the world when we're not in lockdown, as we are now. He was constantly travelling around the world teaching and helping us all. He is an amazing and highly realised wise teacher, very skillful teacher. So, as I said, I really feel that I've benefited from the Buddha's teachings tremendously. I still have a lot of shortcomings, a lot of weaknesses, but I'm aware when these weaknesses, these emotions, negative emotions, all the deluded sort of thinking, I'm aware when it arises, and that's just really, really helpful. Helps me to transform the way I look at challenges and problems in my life. Lama Zopa Rinpoche says we need to learn to love problems like ice cream. I'm not quite there yet, but I really think I'm going in the right direction. It's I see it as a challenge when a problem arises. Um, I enjoy the challenge of seeing if I can transform the way I look at that problem and use it as something beneficial for myself, helping me to evolve and to become, to tame my mind, to gain benefit from what would normally be looked at as a problem. Um, my teaching style is usually to have a lot of discussion and feedback from students in my class. So this is very different for me to be teaching on YouTube. I have to talk a lot more and can't rely on my students' feedback as much as I generally do. Questions. I love it when students ask questions because it makes me think about the Buddha's teachings in a different way if I hear a question that I haven't thought about before. So if anyone has questions, please put it in your comment bar and I would be happy to try to answer the question. And if I can't, then I refer it on to one of the more experienced and wise and knowledgeable teachers at VI. So a lot of people come searching to Buddhism with meaning of life type questions. They want a more meaningful life. They want their life to have more purpose. And Buddhism delivers this with a lot of tools and techniques that you can use to work on your mind, striving to become a better version of yourself, striving to become the best version of yourself that you can be. The Dalai Lama said it's not about converting people to Buddhism, it's about learning to be the best whatever you are already. So everyone, I think, can benefit from these tools and techniques. And you don't have to take on board all of the Buddha's teachings and methods. Lama Yeshe used to say that the Buddhist supermarket is very large. You don't have to buy everything in the Buddhist supermarket. You can pick something up off the shelf and take it home, try it out. And if it helps, great, keep it. If there's something on the shelf which you're not really interested in, then you just leave it there. Or if you take something home from the Buddhist supermarket and you don't think it works very well for you, you just put it aside. You don't have to buy everything at the Buddhist supermarket. I often quote that. It's one of the things that really attracted me to Buddhism, that you don't have to take the whole package and sort of be overwhelmed and think that you need to do it all. You can take whatever helps you, whatever you like. So the Dalai Lama said that the very purpose of life is to be happy. And we just go about it the wrong way, thinking that happiness is out there. Buddha teaches us that true happiness, long-lasting happiness is within. It's within our mind. So the Buddha gives us methods, practical tools to practice to access that happiness that is within our own mind, which makes sense to me. I think we all know intellectually that things out there are not going to make us long-term happy. But we act as if we need those things out there to make us happy. And it's just the view that we've been brought up with. It's habits that we've had all our life. Because they've been habits for so long, we often tend to not examine them. We don't reflect upon whether the way we go about trying to find happiness is the best way for us or not. So, Buddhism helps us to examine the way I'm going about my life, the way I'm trying to find happiness. Is it really effective, or is there a better way? Is there a way that I could try out and see if it's more effective, whether it helps me be happier? So it's a very explorative sort of a process. Um, so this course, Buddhism for Beginners, is a 5-week course covering key Buddhist topics, and we're going to look at some practical tools, find out some techniques and methods that we can use in our daily life. And that's where the true value in Buddhism is. It's not just about learning blah, blah, blah words, as Lama Yeshe would say. It's about learning tools which we're going to try to apply to our life and see if they help us. Very practical. And this is based on a course written by Miffy Maximilian, who is the director of Lungri Tamba Centre, which is a sister Buddhist centre of the FPMT group up in Brisbane. And she wrote this course as a 9-week course. I'm doing it as a 5-week course, so I'm condensing her course a bit. But there is a book which she's written, which is Foundation Course, it's called. And if at the end of this session you would like to get a copy of this emailed to you, just put your note. I will put my email address in the comment bar at the end. And if anyone wants to get a copy of this book, then I will email that to you. So look at the end of the class for my email address. It's not a heavy sort of a book. It's got sort of places that you can write notes, and it's like a summary of the course. It's very good, very helpful, I think. So tonight is just an overview of Buddhism, what it is to be a Buddhist, and later on in the course we'll explore some topics like how to meditate, the potential to perfect our mind, faith based on logic and experience, and reincarnation, karma, compassion. We'll do those topics over 5 weeks. So many people do come searching to Buddhism, looking for answers to questions like, what is the meaning of life? Why am I here? What's it all about? Why do I suffer? People are yearning to get answers. I think that's very common in people who come to Buddhism. And I think this current situation of the COVID pandemic, and all the suffering, the isolation, the economic problems that brings. It's really had incredible effect on the whole world, all the people in the world. And I think this gives us a really great opportunity to maybe change our view, maybe look at things in a different way. Maybe we can become a better person by having this sort of challenge put upon us in a way. I think there's a lot of lessons that we can learn from this tiny little virus, which has affected, I would say, everyone in the world, which is quite incredible, just coming from a microscopic sort of a being. This is all very much in accord with the Buddha's teachings that we are all interdependent. We all have an effect on each other. And I think it gives us an ideal opportunity to maybe reflect upon how we do affect every other being in the world. And maybe we have the opportunity to look after each other a bit better than we have been doing, look after the world a bit better than we have been doing as well. So, just looking at my notes. The Buddhist point of view is that the meaning of life is to become happy. And we can find meaning, peace, and happiness through helping others. We learn to cherish others as well as ourselves. And that's the source of permanent, true happiness, rather than the sort of sense pleasure happiness that we get from external things. So it's about being more kind, more tolerant, and we just start where we are. We can start practicing being kinder, more tolerant of the people immediately around us, our family and friends. And as we get better at it, we can expand that out. And then ultimately, the ultimate goal in Buddhism is to have the wish for every being, every living being or sentient being, which means a being with a mind, wishing all of them to be free from suffering and to be happy. And that makes us happy at the same time as a byproduct. The Dalai Lama calls it being wisely selfish, because we think about other people, we put them ahead of us, but it actually makes us happy at the same time. A Buddhist is an inner being focused on our inner reality. So the reality in our mind, in our hearts. And we look for solutions to our problems, our suffering within our mind. So we stop blaming out there, blaming other people or blaming our conditions for our problems. Problems can't be solved by eliminating every outer cause, but we usually take this approach. We try to take this approach to change everything out there to make us feel better, but it doesn't work. We think if I could just fix that problem, or if I could just fix that person, like I thought I could fix my kids to make me feel better. Didn't work. We have to work on our own mind to make ourselves happy. And that involves thinking of others. There's a Buddhist parable about a long time ago in Tibet. There was a king who was walking around his kingdom as he did every day, and he stood on some sharp stones and injured his feet. He went back to the palace and he told his chief advisors and ministers that this just wasn't good enough. They had to come up with a solution so that he wouldn't harm his feet when he was walking around the kingdom. So all the ministers and the advisors sat around their big round table and discussed how they could stop the king from ever cutting his feet again. And eventually someone came up with the idea that they would cover the entire kingdom in leather. And then the king could walk wherever he wanted and he wouldn't cut his feet because it would be soft leather that he was walking on. So they started to cover the kingdom in leather, and pretty soon it became apparent that it just wasn't going to work. It was impractical and it just was not feasible that they could cover the entire kingdom in leather. So the ministers went back to the round table and sat down and said, "This is not going to work. What are we going to do now? How else can we solve this problem?" And then one minister said, "How about if we can't cover the entire kingdom in leather, what about if we just put leather on the king's feet? And then it would have the same effect. He would walk around with leather on his feet, same effect as having leather everywhere." And they did that. So shoes were born in Tibet and it worked. The king didn't suffer from cutting his feet again because just his feet were covered in leather rather than the entire kingdom. And this is like what we can do with our mind. We don't try to solve everything out there because that's not going to work. There's actually very little that we can control externally out there. So we protect our own mind. We work on our own mind, and that has the same effect as changing everything else. We transform our mind instead of transforming everything else, which makes sense. And so the Buddhist teachings have many, many different tools and methods that we can use to work on our mind, to help us to not suffer, to transform our mind, transform the way we look at our problems and the way we respond to our problems. So I'm just looking at the time because we started late. There's only 20 minutes to go. Okay. So the essence of Buddha's teachings, there are a lot of Buddha's teachings. 84,000 has been mentioned as a figure. But the essence of the Buddha's teachings is to first refrain from harm, second, to do what you can to help, to practice virtue and cultivate positive qualities, and finally, to subdue your mind. This is the teaching of the Buddha. So this involves refraining from blaming others for our problems. Instead, we look within our own mind for solutions to our problems. We take responsibility for our problems rather than blaming it on people out there. This is what being an inner being is all about, working with our mind, focusing on our inner reality instead of trying to change external circumstances, which is not very successful. And I've tried, and it's true. So if people choose to make a formal commitment to become a Buddhist, and that's totally up to you whether you do or not at any stage. But if you decide you want to make a formal commitment to being a Buddhist, you take refuge. We take refuge in the triple gem of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, which I will explain a little bit later. But at present, we all seek refuge. We're all looking for safety, security, comfort. I think that's innate in all of us, that we want to find a good refuge. We want to be safe. And I did just want to do a short meditation just so that we could reflect upon the sorts of things that we look to at the moment to find refuge. And we've only got 15 minutes left. So I think I would like to still do that little mini meditation where we'll just reflect upon how we currently look for safety or comfort, refuge, in other words. And then if we do that meditation and think about how we look for refuge now, then we can use this week to apply in practical terms, just looking at in our daily life how we do actually try to find safety and refuge in our daily activities. And then next week, we'll come back and talk more about how we can find refuge in Buddhism, which is maybe a more valid refuge than the places and things and people that we currently go to for refuge. So if you would just like to get comfortable again, and just for a moment, feeling those points of contact again of our body with that safe, secure surface holding it. Just taking a couple of deep breaths into the belly. Just watching the breath for a moment, just observing each in and out breath. And the eyes can be open or closed, whichever you prefer. But just for a moment, reflect upon where you currently seek refuge. And it could help to recall a time when you were angry or hurt or anxious. Just try to bring up a memory when you were angry or worried, hurt, and just reflect back to that time. What did you go to seek comfort and refuge from that agitated, hurt sort of mind? What did you look to help yourself to feel better? And you could also just consider in our everyday life what sorts of things we may go to seek refuge, to all sorts of suffering, big suffering, small suffering, when we're bored, worried, or scared. What sorts of things do we look to for comfort, to help ourselves? Do you ever seek refuge in eating or sleeping or watching TV, distracting ourselves? Do we seek refuge in alcohol, drugs? Do we seek refuge in blaming others for our suffering? And maybe you subconsciously did this looking for these sorts of refuges without even realizing what you were doing, without being aware. And just for a moment, thinking about whether these places, things that you went to for safety and comfort, did they really help? Just trying to think back to specific instances, things that you went to for safety. Did it help you to feel better? Did these things help you to grow and evolve as a person, to become a better person? Did they help you to become stronger, to be able to face this sort of suffering in the future? Could there possibly be a better, more valid refuge than the sorts of things that we normally go to? Are you willing to have an open mind to investigate if there's a truer, more long lasting sort of refuge? Maybe you're here tonight to listen to the Buddhist teachings, the course you're searching for a more reliable direction, more reliable path towards ultimately finding lasting safety and protection. Could you set a positive motivation that you will listen with an open mind, a curious mind, to the Buddha's teachings, and just to check up for yourself whether there's anything you can learn from Buddhism and take away from this course which may help you to develop wisdom and compassion, which may be your refuge in a challenging, troubled world. Just again, bringing our attention back to the breath for a moment. Just observing each in and out breath. Noticing the state of the body in this moment and the state of the mind in this moment. Becoming aware of the noises inside the room, the noises outside the room. And when you're ready, feeling joyful and relaxed, gently open your eyes and have a stretch. So I wonder whether people learned anything or were made a bit more aware of the sorts of things that they go to for refuge, for comfort. I think it's a valuable thing to actually be mindful of in our daily life. If we can do that this week, I'll be doing it as well, because I still seek refuge in external things which are not so helpful. I'm quite partial to chocolate, um, and blaming others is a really big one for me, but it's becoming less so. You know, if you're upset with someone, you just keep going over and over in your mind, blaming them for what they did, and going over what they said, which was so harmful and hurtful to you, and you just keep doing it again and again and again. You had suffering once, but now in our mind, we just constantly go over and over and over and subject ourselves to that suffering again and again and again. That's the sort of thing that we do, which is not helpful. And next week, we will talk about seeking refuge in Buddhism or in anything which is a more valid type of refuge than that. The things that we have just habitually gone to for safety since we were a toddler, since we were 2 years old. And if we really examine how we're going about looking for safety and comfort, I think we will find that there's lots of things which are really not skillful ways of helping ourselves. And maybe the Buddha's teachings can give us more reliable refuge, which will actually help to comfort and make us feel safer, more peaceful. So if you're willing to do some homework, um, think about that during the week. Just what sort of places do you look for your comfort and your safety, your refuge? Then next week, we'll talk about Buddhist refuge. So, just for a moment now, we dedicate all the efforts and energy that we've put into showing up here tonight at home or wherever we are, but we turn the computer on, we put some effort into listening to the Buddha's teachings instead of just zoning out watching TV or some other sort of refuge that's not very helpful. Let's dedicate the positive energy and effort that we put in to helping us to be more calm, peaceful, happy, wise people. And may that help all those that we come in contact with as well to be happier, more peaceful, wiser people. And that could even spread out to help the whole world to be a peaceful place. Everyone looking after each other. And thank you very much for being here and for being patient with our IT challenges to start with. And next week, I think I'll have it all right from the beginning because I know to go to Chrome now and not Safari. So John's just written Vajrayana Institute smiley face. I was out for a while, Aleta, as I had some internet issues, same as me. But I've been watching since 8:05 p.m. Thank you. Thank you so much, John. It's lovely to be with you again, even though I can't see you. That's my refuge, says John. That's so awesome, John. That's really, really good. And I guess it was sort of good that we didn't get to cover it all tonight because people might have tuned out or John didn't get to watch it all. So maybe we can have some good IT internet karma by next week. Sue's there as well. Hi, sis. And John says hi, Sue. See, we can still interact. That's lovely. So I'm just going to put my email address there. If John or anyone else who views later, I guess, if you send me an email, I will send you the course note book. Okay, acoroneo@hotmail.com. So I should put, okay, I'll just leave it as that. Sue came by after Wai Chong's class. See, this is how fortunate we are. We can, instead of having to make a choice between going to Wai Chong or me or some other teacher, we can have it all because we can watch something live now and then go and catch all the other teachings at VI at our leisure. So we're very, very fortunate. And I think it's really helpful to look on the bright side of this pandemic. There are positive things to come out of this. There's a lot of suffering, there are positive things as well, and we can transform our mind the way we look at it. Okay, I think I've already got your email, John. Thank you, Sue. Thank you very much for joining me. And next week, it's going to be spot on from the beginning. I miss you all. I miss my hugs. See ya. I'll write down John's email address if I can find a pen. I have one. That's gone. Okay, I'll do that later. Thank you, Ben, Sue, and Aleta. Big hug. I don't know if I should do that to everyone like it's to the world. Yes, I'm going to do it. I would like to hug everyone in the world. I miss hugs so much. See ya. Take care, all of you as well. Be safe. Stay in. Bye.